let's not even forget that David Eby's entire rise to the leadership of the BC NDP in 2022 was surrounded by controversy from the very when Horgan left and resigned. There was a disqualification of the only competitor in the leadership race in 2022. That I can't remember her name, the climate activist in the BC leadership race was intended to find a successor for John Horgan after his resignation. And it turned into a highly contentious affair with many accusing the NDP of orchestrating basically a calculated move to ensure Eby's victory, essentially like a coup against Anjali Appadurai. She was a surprise entry into the race. It dramatically shifted the dynamics. Her campaign was focusing on climate justice, progressive policies, and it resonated with a wide segment of the population, not just the party base, but even Greens. And within a very short period, her campaign brought in around 13,000 new members, reportedly, which was significantly higher than 4,000 that was attributed to Eby's camp. And it was this influx of support that made her a serious contender, which seemingly alarmed the NDP establishment, who viewed Eby as this long-standing figure within the party as a safer, more predictable choice for leadership in what was becoming an ever more neoliberal party that was completely separate from what the NDP federally, even them with their like very lukewarm milquetoast faux progressive stances, the NDP in BC is like basically the liberals. And that's why they're essentially isn't a liberal party, because they are liberalism as far as like fake progressivism and social progressivism with pro-capitalist, like a pro-capitalist veneer on top of it, is essentially what the BC NDP has been under Horgan and now under Eby. As Appadurai's momentum grew, there was tons of concerns within the NDP. The party saw her as a potential threat and began scrutinizing her campaign. Elizabeth Cull, the NDP's chief electoral officer, initiated an investigation into the legitimacy of her campaign, particularly regarding how her team was able to recruit so many new members. The investigation eventually claimed that her campaign had violated rules by collaborating too closely with third-party organizations, notably environmental advocacy groups like 350.org, to boost her membership. There was also some membership being pulled from the Greens. These are the accusations that led to her disqualification. Ironically enough, 2 years ago today, on October 20th, 2022, and her disqualification was highly controversial. Critics alleged that the investigation was deliberately crafted to prevent her from appealing the decision, and swiftly moved the party towards giving the reins to Eby, basically by default, because she was disqualified. And tons of people viewed that move as an orchestrated attempt to just clear the path for Eby to essentially have no actual leadership race, just a coronation of somebody. And yeah, otherwise he would not have won, right? And so by disqualifying Appadurai, the NDP leadership effectively removed the competition and left Eby as a sole candidate for the position. As a result, he won the leadership by default, right? And was sworn in as the 37th premier in November of 2022. Supporters of Eby and the NDP's establishment have argued that this disqualification was a necessary step to ensure, quote unquote, rule-abiding leadership race. And they contended that Appadurai's campaign had overstepped the boundaries which were set by the party, and that then justified her removal. However, many within and outside of the BC NDP saw this as a strategic decision to sideline a more progressive candidate who has policies and a popularity very much threaten the status quo. And this entire ordeal has casted a massive shadow over Eby's premiership from the very onset. And while he quickly took on the role and moved forward within his policy agenda, it's this perception that the leadership race was manipulated to favor him has lingered, and you can see it. That's the whole point of this rant, is that either because of conservative culture war, or even just like more pro-developer, pro-capitalist, anti-sustainable development, anti-ecological protection, et cetera, has gained traction against what is a status quo, lukewarm, neoliberal party cosplaying as progressive, the no democracy party, the NDP. And yeah, this is it's a controversy that has raised many questions about the eternal democracy of the BC NDP, and highlights very clear tensions between the party, the voters of the party, and the party's establishment, and its quote unquote progressive and quote unquote grassroots support base, because none of those things are actually true when you really get down to it. Otherwise, Eby would not be the leader of this party headed into this election.